Let's assume for the moment, that's our topic today, that President Trump has been elected. What happens on the day after this election?
It's actually pretty terrifying to understand the extent of executive authority in this country. There is so much he can do that Congress would not serve as a check and balance on him, especially not in the realm of foreign policy, where he can do so many destructive things by fiat. I would say, he could actually destroy NATO, an alliance that has been the most successful in world history and has kept the peace in Europe for more than 6 decades. He could destroy it overnight. All he has to do is come out and say, I will not honor our commitments to all these freeloaders in Europe. If they're invaded by Russia, they're on their own. That's it. With those 2 or 3 sentences, he destroys NATO. Nobody can stop him. And that's just the beginning of what he can do as president. And it doesn't matter who his appointees are. It doesn't matter what his support is in Congress. As commander-in-chief, he has the ultimate authority, and he will exercise it in ways that I think are unpredictable, but will certainly be destructive.
And then you have the question with the Supreme Court, not just is he going to appoint justices who overturn Roe v. Wade, but is he going to appoint justices who provide any sort of a check on him? I'd like to think that even the people on the approved Federalist Society list of judges would maybe resist the gutting of the 14th Amendment, but I don't know. And I think that it may be most interesting and most important to our question today to think about what kind of president he would want to be. He wants to be like the cartoon he has of Putin. He knows about the idea of a president who can act outside the law and act in an authoritarian manner, and that is the very, very highly alarming thing about the Putin.
I agree with that. I agree with that, and it's funny to me to hear Roger suggest that Donald Trump is the anti-war candidate. This is a guy who's actually said, I love war. I want it. I'm always sorry I didn't get a Purple Heart. He's also said that he wants to bomb, quote unquote, the shit out of ISIS. He wants to torture, capture terrorist suspects. The President of the United States has the power within about half an hour to kill hundreds of millions of people because there is no check and balance on the use of the nuclear codes. As long as he has the codes, as long as they are authenticated to be the orders of the commander-in-chief, the launch officers will launch. And I don't know how Donald Trump would use that authority. I'm not saying that he would, although he has said that he is very interested in the nuclear, as he calls it. But the idea of turning over the authority to a person like this who melts down in a debate with Hillary Clinton, who comes to pieces under the slightest bit of pressure, you don't know how he'd respond. I mean, the most important, I think, quality for any commander-in-chief, any president, is to have calmness and to have character and to be able to weather a crisis in a cool-headed way. I think the way that John F. Kennedy, for example, handled the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, could you imagine Donald Trump meeting with the ex-com in the Situation Room, handling the Cuban Missile Crisis? If that had been the case, we would not be sitting here today. And there is just no way in hell I would possibly turn over to him the codes that could kill hundreds of millions of people within an hour of the authority being given.
The only thing predictable about Donald Trump is that he is entirely unpredictable.
Well, what does that mean, though?
In the 40 years I've known him, he has a tendency to perform better under pressure. He's not a career politician.
Whatever the Donald Trump presidency looks like, it's not going to look like what certain people hope. It's this unpredictability thing. And I think that his response in those situations has been to look for a crisis, to look for blame. One thing, and I'm not saying this to beat up on Republicans, but a lot of those who have come out against Trump have said, I can never vote for him, all of the things that you've said. And then unlike you, they've said, but of course I couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. Either I'll write somebody in, or Gary Johnson, or maybe I'll just sleep late. My concern is that our political culture in a Trump presidency is going to be characterized by a renunciation of politics, by a sense that it's not the route to solve American problems, and that there are going to be plenty of American problems.
I mean, this is not an election. We call it an election because there are parties, and it's been there, but something happened that is abnormal. And one of the things that's abnormal about it is that there is no common ground. There cannot be any common ground because of the nature of the the process that we're watching.
I think we may bury the lead. That's a really interesting point that you think we are going to go back to something more recognizable.
I think it's also worth noting, though, that there has been a lot of partisan polarization, and you see it with the fact that Democrats are drifting leftward to support somebody like Bernie Sanders, and a lot of Republicans are in this alternative universe of Breitbart and Fox News. There is something deeper going on, I think, although it's, as Sean said, it's especially bad right now. But I think there has been greater partisan polarization. I think it is disturbing, and you've seen it even before the rise of Trump with the Tea Party, and people like Ted Cruz, who made it impossible to achieve any kind of compromise in Washington. And then they would complain that Washington is broken when they were making it impossible for all these Republican lawmakers to achieve any kind of across-the-aisle compromise of the kind that you had in the 1990s when Bill Clinton was in the White House. Actually, my great hope is that if and when, and I assume that she will, when Hillary Clinton becomes president, I hope that she will revive her husband's tradition of working with the Republican Congress and achieving some common sense, middle-of-the-road solutions, because I think that would be the best possible thing that could happen for America.